She is great, amazing. She's got the support of a whole lot of people out there in the world. I done seen Hillary Clinton. I done seen you on stage with Killer Mike and some other folk candidate for Ohio's district, 11th district. She is a warrior. Let me welcome back to the show, Nina Turner.
Glad to be here, Karen. Thank you.
Oh, I mean, last time we actually broke bread, you were just coming out of the local space, as a state senator. And then you became a Bernie Sanders acolyte out there in the streets fighting folk. And now you're moving into this space, and I'm seeing a shift. So I want to ask you, what have you changed? What did you need to change, and why?
I won't necessarily say I changed anything. I think I'm even more committed on this mission and the journey. And it's not just, I mean, you can do parts of it as an elected, other parts as not an elected. You know, when you and I broke bread, I was not in the elected ministry. I'm working to get back there. But just I'm clearer than ever, Karen, about some of the things that need to happen to be able to help to change material conditions in this country. And I do clearly understand that we have all the mechanisms necessary to be the kind of change, to push the policy changes that are necessary to lift people in this country. And it's just a matter of political will. So I would say, if anything has changed, just my focus and my drive and determination to continue to be of service, and to also to do that service as an elected official once again, is really where my mindset is right now.
And let me apologize. Hillary Clinton is actually supporting one of your opponents.
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant.
Yeah, that's what. Let me just be clear. Yeah. And that's interesting. Is do you think that's personal, or is it that your opponent who called up the show was it a couple of weeks ago, and she was on, and I think she's amazing, and I think you've said some nice things about her as well. Do you think it's personal because it's you?
I'm not sure, Karen. We would have to ask Secretary Clinton that. What I do know is that the support that I have, from having the Congressional Progressive Caucus, which is the largest caucus in the House of Representatives right now, to people like Senator Sanders, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congresswoman Jayapal. I mean, these are people who I've been in the vineyard with, fighting the good fight. As you know, I've been on the ground all over this country pushing for policy changes like Medicare for all, or canceling student debt, the Green New Deal, making sure that people can unionize. Karen, I think when we talked last, I hadn't been to Bessemer, Alabama, but I actually went down to Bessemer, Alabama to stand side by side with those Amazon workers, because I understand very clearly what happens over there in Bessemer happens over here in Cleveland, Ohio, or in the 11th Congressional District. We have 3 Amazon facilities here, and that we are really all connected. And when some workers are struggling in anywhere in the world, but particularly in this country, that struggle is really close to any of our doors, and we have to show that kind of solidarity. So I'm really proud of the broad swath of support that I have. And you know what, Karen, not everybody who supports me would call themselves a progressive or a freedom fighter. Some of them are not progressives. They are mainline Democrats. They are maybe a little more moderate than I am, and that's okay. What they do see in me, they know that I'm a champion. They know that I will fight. They also know that I have an open mind, open heart, and open door, that I'm somebody that you can have a conversation with, whether we ever agree or not. They all agree that I am the right leader for a time such as this, and I'm really honored to have that kind of support.
Bessemer broke my heart a little bit, because it said to me that messaging is not getting through. Like, people will vote against their own interests because of Soundbites.
Yes.
And that's how we were talking all day about 2022, and how if something doesn't change with the way the voting laws are set up and the way they have installed people around vote counting, 2024 is going to be a whole ass Donnybrook if we don't get it together. Yes. Because the sound bites and the messaging, they got that down pat. And I don't know what it's going to take if people couldn't unionize to protect themselves and the future of, like, everyone. If they could be bought off with a couple of dollars raised, or they don't want to, then what's the hope?
It's looking kind of bleak, but I am one of those. I am going to continue to hold out hope. That's why the PRO Act, which I know many of your listeners know about, because I know you've had guests on here to talk about that, but it passed the House of Representatives. The hold up to that policy being able to pass is in the Senate. And just in a nutshell, what that will do will allow folks to be able to unionize all over this country, hold employers accountable if they try to thwart any worker's ability to unionize. It would do away with right to work laws and a whole host of other things. It is important at least that people be able to at least try to unionize without fear of intimidation and also losing their jobs. And so we got to make sure that that passes the entire Congress. The Senate is holding it up. This is why we need, one of the reasons why we need to do away with the filibuster. You made the point about voting. There are about 400 bills pending in legislatures all across this country. Even in my home state of Ohio, one of the worst bills in the country could pass before they go on summer recess in the state of Ohio. It will have an impact not on this special election, but it could have an impact on November. And as you are alluding to, 2022 and beyond. We got a problem on our hands. We've ignored legislatures for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, part of what you have been a part of, with a great appreciation for your leadership over time, in really the Bernie movement, which Karen referenced before, there's also grassroots development of leaders on the ground all over the country in local elections who are coming forth, running for office, recognizing that they had to be a part of the transformation. And it connects exactly with this last point you made about ignoring state legislatures. That the Democratic Party, by and large, has not been engaging, look at the 20-year span, in that kind of candidate development, pipeline development, leadership development. As you think about your work there in Ohio and how your leadership translates across the country, what are the things that you want to be doing as an elected official, again, that you've not been able to do without having that seat? Or, because you've engaged a different kind of power there. What are some of the things you want to accomplish in that seat and that platform, which you'll continue to have across the country to help transform your party?
Yeah, to be able to be in the house, so to speak, there's outside pressure and inside pressure. And I have over the last 6 years been pushing that outside pressure, but to be in the house and to be able to work with people who are pushing the same agenda to change material conditions, that is what I see is different from what I've been doing over the last 6 years, which has been very valuable to Democrats and to the movement, helping progressives get elected on all levels of government, from school board all the way to the Congress. And I was rocking with somebody that I really wanted to be the president of the United States of America. I do think, though, by extension, not only is the things that I can do officially in my capacity as a legislator, but it's also going back to what you were talking about, the movement portion of this, because that is what it is going to take. All great social change that has happened in this country has not happened necessarily because people with fancy titles wanted it to happen. It really is the outside pressure. And so I want to continue to be able to navigate both of those roles, both pushing inside the house and also continuing to encourage citizen leaders to push so that we can get the change that we need. I mean, checks, the COVID relief package is one good example of the pressure coming from the outside, moving the Biden administration a little more left. I want people to continue to organize to get other people in other levels of government who actually have a consciousness elected to office, because we're not going to get this great change that we want just by one level of government. Who we elect to legislatures matter, who holds governors' mansions matter, who's in the mayor's seat matters, and who's on school boards matter too. It's not just the shiny object that is the federal level. And I hope to utilize the teacher in me a little more as I continue to travel the country and push that message in support of my district and my state and the nation, because as we know, anybody that serves in Congress, you're elected from a place, but the impact that you have is actually global.
As we're seeing with AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley and Cori Bush, who Reverend Starsky Wilson mentioned earlier today. 866-801-8255. We're with Nina Turner. She's running for the 11th Congressional District in Ohio. Chantel Brown, I think, is her opponent. Yes, she is, among others. There are other people running as well. There are 13 people running, but y'all are the front runners. So we're going just two sisters, right? And I think, it's super important that we support and not divide. So I'm not going to do that. But I also want to ask you, what was that moment where you decided to get back in the fray? Because you've been in and then you were out. Was there one thing that said, all right, I got to tap back in to this and go start running? Because the whole running to me is distasteful. You got to go raise money, you got to go campaign, you got to talk to a whole bunch of people, and then you got to rinse and repeat and do it again in 2 years. But really, the very next year, Keith Ellison said one of the things that he hated most about being in Congress was that it's a constant campaign, that you really don't have time to do the work for your constituents. You're in Washington, you got to deal with the nonsense and navigate all of that, and then go and shake hands and kiss babies. What made you come in?
Yeah, I take the bitter with the sweet. I do agree with A.G. Ellison, and big ups to him and where he is right now. I do believe he was destined to be where he is right now, and thank God that he is. It is that. I think on the bitter side, it is that, but also on the sweet side, it definitely keeps you in contact with the constituents. So hopefully what you do from a policy perspective mirrors the needs of your people, that you remain in touch with their needs, that you don't get so far away from the people that you don't have that common touch. And unfortunately, sometimes when people go to Washington, that happens. I mean, I tapped back in this way because I've never really been out. I've just, the elected ministry officially, I say I was on the activist side more over the last 6 years, but just seeing the opportunity, really happy that Congresswoman Marsha Fudge is now Secretary Marsha Fudge, Secretary of HUD, and seeing that opening, and given all the work that I've been doing over the last 6 years, and when you complement that with my life's work so far in public policy, it just seemed right for me to come on in and run for this seat and be again in the House, right there in DC, pushing the policies that I've been working on as an activist and a grassroots leader, and somebody that has been blessed to be part of leadership in 2 presidential elections that allowed me to travel all over this country and to see the needs in, for example, Bessemer, Alabama is not much different than the needs in Cleveland, Ohio, or also in Akron. The needs in Ames, Iowa is not much different from the needs of people in Brooklyn, and so on and so forth. We have to continue. We have to put, to me, poverty is a policy choice. That is another big lesson, Karen, that I learned on this campaign trail. We can make different choices. We can push different policies to lift the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country. And that is what I want to be able to leverage when I have the people's power one more time.
All right. Day one, what does that look like? Nina Turner, day one. I'm in Ohio, 11th district. I vote for you. You're in.
Well, first of all, day one, a lot of thank yous. There is a general election. Even the Democratic index is very high in this district. So 9 times out of 10, the person that wins the primary will go on to win the general. But I'm not going to take that for granted. So in between August 3rd, which is election day, and November the 2nd, I'm going to keep working and building alliances with people, having more meetings with people, taking on feeling the vibe and the needs of the people so that I can best push that forward when I get to Congress, when I'm sworn in. One of the things that I want to fight for first is to increase the minimum wage. I think there is an opening. We missed it with the COVID relief plan. I do still believe that there's an opening for Democrats to be able to get that $15 an hour minimum wage increase, giving a raise to 30 million people, and hopefully increasing wages of people who are already at $15 an hour. And just, that has a class and a caste component to it. It's both racial justice and also class justice at the same time. The minimum wage has not increased for 12 years. Federal minimum wage is at $7.25. Nobody can live off of that. Anybody can barely live off of $15 an hour, but that is what we are pushing right now. And hopefully it will go higher and higher. So economics, Karen, in economics, that's what it is.
I couldn't agree more. I think, and I love, I think about basic income, the Stockton, California, the mayor there, and it worked, right? He did that. It was successful. And then they voted him out.
Yeah.
I'm like, these people ain't loyal. You do all of this. You do all of this for, to make sure that there's, and not for you because you're good, right? I just like, it's a thankless job. I don't know why anybody would want to be a politician, to be honest with you, but that's any good person, because I get why, because you get uber wealthy. There's another conversation I had with Keith Ellison. He said, I'm one of the few that's not a millionaire. Y'all can inside a trade, do all kind of crazy stuff in Congress. It is, Nancy Pelosi and them are uber rich. They're out of touch. And it's a very old average age. And I'm not ageist But I'm saying there's a very old way in which they're thinking about what's happening. How do we hold these folk accountable? Because I'm not aligned to any party. But right now we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and we have a whole bunch of congressional people that are jockeying for position. We got Joe Manchin over there and a bunch of other, criminal folk like Hawley and them allegedly. And what's the guy, Matt, whatever his name is, the alleged pedophile. So yeah, I didn't want to say his name. So how do we hold them accountable? You talked about holding Biden accountable. Give us a blueprint, just a short blueprint, Nina Turner, about how the folk who are listening can hold this administration accountable to not just give us a Juneteenth holiday, but pass that damn George Floyd bill that will protect our lives.
That's an HR 4, just it's a lot of work. Listen, the holiday is wonderful. You know why I say that? Because Mother Opal Lee from Texas has been fighting for that. I think she's 94. So that's why I care about it, because she cares about it. It's important to her. But we can put some enhancements on that to what you just said, Karen, which is pass the George Floyd Act, pass the For the People Act, pass the John Lewis Act, look past HR 40 so we can begin to study the need of reparations for American descendants of slaves. I mean, we already got a lifelong study over 400 years, but I get it. Let's go on and study that thing and talk about reparations for Black folks in this country and packaging other things around that. And so the way to keep politicians accountable is that we need the people to do that. First, you need people inside the House who have the courage to ask for more and to push back. People who are not just go along to get along. We need some unbought.
Wait, hold on. Are you watching Kwame Brown? What's going on, Nina? Are you watching Kwame Brown on YouTube?
Is that what Kwame said?
Yeah, the go along, get along gang. All right, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
I mean, because it's hard, as you know. I mean, what you're fussing about right now, what you laying out there with a fierceness that you always do, is that people are tired of being lied to, being manipulated. They just want to know the truth. And even if they don't agree with you, if you are authentic about your stuff, they'll say, okay, I don't agree with that sister, but I know she believes in what she's talking about. And the Democratic Party, I won't say our because you made it clear, the Democratic Party has all the levers of power right now. And so we got to deliver for the people. We asked them for the presidency, check. We asked them to hold the House of Representatives, check. Asked them to give us power in the U.S. Senate by way of Georgia, check and check. So now who's checking for the people? And just because people not wearing masks anymore don't mean that all the problems that was created by COVID, not the problems created, but the problems that were exacerbated by COVID are not over. We can't go back to normal because people's normal was catching hell. And so we got to be able to tell the truth about that and then push an agenda that changes those things and not answer to all the big money interests. Who gonna answer the big mama and big papa around the corner? That's who needs somebody to answer for them and their children and their children's children. And that is why I am going. I can partner with, but I ain't nobody's puppet. I can work with, but I ain't acquiescing to. I am going there to serve the interests of the people who sent me. Part of my district, I mean, Cleveland is the poorest city of its size in the United States of America. Akron area, 23% poverty. Now we got extreme poverty in this district and we got extreme wealth. God bless the people who are extremely wealthy. What I'm going there for is to lift the people who don't have that, because they are entitled to live a good life as well. We can do it through public policy, partly. I won't say every conundrum cannot necessarily be solved by government, but federal government got the biggest stick, and we need to use it on behalf of the people who are suffering the most. That's what they sent us there to do. That's where I'm going. And
Preach.
Thank you. That's Wilson. That's why I'm going. That's why our sister going. And if I make some friends along the way, that's fine. But I'm not going there to be folks' friends. I'm going there to stand up for the people who need somebody to give them voice. To stand up and fight for them. That's why.
One thing I can say for sure, you don't give a F about whether people are going to be friends with you, and it's endearing, because we got enough friends, we got enough cronies and folk that willing to do strange things for change and do things. On that note, though, you made a lot of people not happy during the presidential campaign. Yes, you Nina Turner. A lot of folks salty with you. Have you mended fences, or do they need to be mended? Because part of being a politician is reaching across the aisle and working with people and being political. Nothing.
Mending fences is a two-way street, baby. Yeah, listen. I think that, you got to bring something to get, that's what my grandma used to say. You got to bring it to get, it's a two-way street. So what I will say is I think that my endorsements, even though endorsements don't guarantee a victory, the ultimate endorsement is election day. So I'm only using this by way of example, that I have a Democrats across the political spectrum. I have more moderate Democrats. I have Democrats who march to the beat of their own drum. I have conservative type, Democrats. And I also have very progressive Democrats supporting my campaign. The mayor of the city of Cleveland. I have Councilman Blaine Griffin, another example, city of Cleveland. He was here, working to help Mr. Biden become a President Biden, all the way to progressive leaders, again, like that caucus, people like Congresswoman Cori Bush and Congressman Pocan and Congressman Rokana, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to name all of them, but I have a spectrum. And the reason why that is important, and also the House of Labor, I have conservative unions and I have very progressive unions. The reason why that's important is because that shows that my candidacy, my very presence in this election is bringing Democrats together from all strata. That means that I am a coalition builder, and I am going to use my ability to build coalition while I am in the House of Representatives and hopefully be able to do some good for a whole bunch of people. So nobody should be salty at us. Look, I'm not salty at anybody for the decisions that they made, for the people they endorse, for the issues that they're fighting for. No need to be salty with me. Everybody got a right to have their agency. And what I don't appreciate, especially people coming for Black women's agency. I'm a grown woman, and I subscribe from the Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm school.
Unbossed.
That's
Yes,
it.
I
That's
see you.
That's
okay. Well, follow her at Nina Turner. And August 3rd is election day for
early
the
vote starts on July the 7th, though.
Oh, early voting, July 7th, early voting all the way through. So starts July 7th. Get your ballots, get out to vote. Also, what's your website where do people go? Because you raised more money when Hillary Clinton so you broke a record after Hillary Clinton supported Chantel Brown. You got a record donation. So where do people go?
It was beautiful. NinaTurner.com.
You got that. All right. Nina Turner, that's easy. All right. So listen, sis, open seat as always. Thank you for rolling through. Appreciate you.
Great being
all right. And hopefully after August 3rd, you come back and let's talk about what's going to get done. And then in November, because we need strategy right now to make sure 2022 is not a disaster.
I would absolutely love to do that. You both take good care. Have a great
Thank you.
Blessings.